Other exciting games against someone across town or across the country. It's almost like putting thousands of the nation's most vicious gamers right in your living room. They knew not what they did. Come with me on a trip. Not to any location or common destination, but to a time. Let's go back to the year 1996 and flip through a brand new copy of Electronic Gaming Monthly with those crisp, plasticky pages. Now this is your number one source for the latest news, game reviews, and tips. Complete 12-page guides to all new 64-bit games like Zelda 64, Pilot Wing 64, Star Fox Wave Race, Super Mario Kart R, and much more. We've even got some brand new PlayStation games to get hyped about: Revolution X, Defcon 5, XCOM, Warriors of Fate, Resident Evil, I've heard of that one at least, Johnny Bazooka Tone. You remember that one, right? Here's where it's going to get a little bit awkward because we've got like a 2-page spread here. A big 2-page spread ad, you'd have to turn the magazine sideways. Konami Sports Series, looks like NBA In the Zone, Goal Storm, Full Contact, I don't remember any of those. Another 2-page ad, The Force of Evil, The Force of Good. Okay. The Force of Evil has an ugly face. The Force of Good, an even uglier one. Yeah, that's Secret of Evermore. Another 2-page ad by Squaresoft. Got a little note from the editor here. Being last is not always best. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for, Nintendo's Ultra 64. This system has been shrouded in secrecy ever since the beginning, and now EGM and all your readers are going to have a look at the future of gaming. Is this like right before the N64? And they didn't call it the N64, it was called the Ultra 64, like a code name or something? So here it says, however, before you get lured into saving every penny you've got just to buy a U64 or N64 in Japan, take the time to look at the full picture and listen to what I have to say. So was this originally going to be called like the U60? I'm learning new shit every day. Are all of you PlayStation, Saturn, and Jaguar owners truly sick of your new system and must now buy a U64 to quench your thirst for all things new? Can't tell you I've ever seen a Jaguar, barely seen a Sega Saturn in my lifetime. David Oxford has us covered over at oldschoolgamingmagazine.com. What happened to the Nintendo Ultra 64? So it would have been an upgrade from the Super Nintendo, but before release, Nintendo decided to drop the Ultra from the name altogether and globally branded as Nintendo 64 in all regions. I've literally never heard of it referred to as the Ultra 64 or U64 before. Right up there with the Xbox 720, I guess. The number one comic book has made a hot new video game, A Match Made in Hell, Spawn video game. Blazing Dragons, another 2-page ad by Crystal Dynamics. Here's that exclusive coverage on the Ultra 64. It even has a little logo on these things. That's wild. We're afraid it was going to be vaporware? The Ultra 64, powerhouse of the future? I never would have thought. I mean, 5 minutes ago, I was living in this lie that the Nintendo 64 was always the name. That's just what it is and always has been. Here I am corrected. Hey, this is interesting. So this is like all the different consoles that were big right then. So the Sega Genesis, the 32X, which I think was like the add-on for the Genesis, the Sega Saturn, the PlayStation, the OG version, the 3DO, the Jaguar. Both of those, like, things I've heard of but never seen. The Game Boy and then the Game Gear, which I think was Sega's handheld version. I had one for a while, but I think it took like 6 AA batteries or something crazy like that, so I never really got to play anything on it. If you're worried about some of those Ultra 64 games proving to be too difficult, they've got the solution. They've got the Game Shark. We got a 2-pager again. All those in favor of gun control, please skip this ad. Killing Time, only on the 3DO. That's wild, and I'm kind of interested, like, are there emulators for the 3DO out there, since there are apparently exclusive games? Who's responsible for these two NRA favorites, the Warped Minds and Studio 3DO, of course? I'm not sure that's a flex you want in this day and age. These innovative renegades have turned the most advanced gaming technology on the planet into their own sensory amusement park, and every ride's an e-ticket. What the hell does that mean, an e-ticket? Oh, so these are two different games. So Blade Force and Killing Time, I guess both only on the 3DO. Killing Time, what a politically correct title, eh? They knew what they were doing. Columbine wasn't until April of 1999. I mean, I think that was the first real big shift for gun control back then. Yeah, I really need like side-by-side viewing here. 1996, who will win it all? I didn't know we were going to get into such a contentious time, but you know, we got 4 systems, 1 market. We got a big question of whether the Sony PlayStation can battle the 64-bit systems. With the Sega, they're talking about the Saturn, which I guess would be at that time, but I always think of the Dreamcast as being like the equivalent to the PlayStation. I guess maybe it's close to PlayStation 2. Now here's an interesting one. Panasonic sell the M2 to mass markets, but it's betting a lot on other parties such as 3DO to churn out killer games. And then Nintendo with that Ultra 64, as we all know and love. I guess the Sega Saturn was getting something new in Japan, an Internet Saturn that was going to hit the market to allow them to get on the internet. I guess that Ultra 64 had all the other console manufacturers shitting their pants. They're talking about how the games were going to be too expensive, relying on expensive memory chips, jacking cart prices to $100. After the ticker tape welcome home parade, Thumb dedicated his record-breaking performance to the Atari Jaguar system and encouraged thumbs everywhere to hitchhike to their local video game stores to pick one up for the holidays. 64-bit system for $159. Sega was getting more into PC at the time, investing in ICE to get some virtual reality technology research and development. I'm not sure what actually came of that, though. If ignorance is truly bliss, you're looking at the world's happiest guy, Captain Quasar, as we all, again, know and love. The 3DO, we got it, they don't. All the way back in 1996, they were saying Nintendo boasts sales of video games like McDonald's does with hamburgers, over 1 billion served. That's the landmark number the company reached in October of how many video games have been sold since the first Mario game came out in the early 1980s. That has to be like 10 times as much today. A mysterious murder, a doomed planet, an angry alien. Welcome to Star Trek Deep Space Nine Harbinger. Available for PC and Macintosh on CD-ROM. I would bet like younger people today have never seen advertisement where they actually called it Macintosh rather than Apple or Mac. Put your ears on Cloud 9 with some Sennheisers. I've never used them, but I've heard of them on like Linus Tech Tips before. NFL Pocket Fan. I had a Pokédex that was a lot like that. I wonder if the same company made it. An introduction to the hierarchy of Doom. The nice thing about Doom is that you always know where you stand, even if it's at the bottom of the food chain. Either way, you were gonna scream. Space Griffin for the PlayStation. I don't think I've heard of that one. What the hell is this? Sex, drugs, violence, weapons, San Francisco, men in tights. Another 3DO thing. They're talking about Captain Quasar right there in the corner. Starfighter Snow Job? Okay, I gotta find an emulator and see what the hell this is about. Tracy Scoggins of Dynasty, Lois and Clark, is the New York Assistant DA Laura Calabrese, the long arm and legs of the law. One of 20 suspects is out to snuff her out. No wonder her fuse is shorter than her skirt. Guns, gangs, strippers, quick, somebody frisk me. That's some real, like, The Mask energy there. They have a whole second page there. A contest to die for, Brain Dead 13. So this is a contest to win a copy of Brain Dead 13 and the grand prize of the Sony PSX to play it on. Till recently, I thought the PSX was just used interchangeably for like PS1 or original PlayStation. Till I saw one for sale in my local area. Guy wants like $300 or $400 for it, so I'm not touching it. But it's like a Japan-only PlayStation 2 with a DVR built in, and it looks nothing like a PlayStation 2. It's like a white box, which is crazy, and you could actually win one from this contest. You know, the ads are just as interesting as the content. Don't let video game boredom ruin your day. A $10 rebate offer here on the Aura Interactor. Help is here. Just strap on the Aura Interactor and you'll feel the punches, kicks, and explosions from all your video games. And with this rebate offer, you can feel it all for $10 less. This is shit we're talking about being like brand new today, like haptic feedback vests and stuff for video games. We're talking about the Ultra 64. The Nintendo 64 hadn't launched yet with the Rumble Pack, which to my knowledge was like the first gaming accessory to really bring vibration to the mainstream. I think PlayStation brought their DualShock controllers out much later than this as well. Next one doesn't look as interesting. Claim your free X-Band watch today. Buy an X-Band video game modem for the Sega or Super Nintendo and get an X-Band watch free. Hurry while supplies last. A modem for the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. There's actually a little bit written on it. It's just teeny tiny there. The world's only video game network for your Sega Genesis and Super NES. Played Mortal Kombat 2, NHL 95, NFL, blah blah blah, Super Street Fighter 2, Madden NFL, Madden 96, Killer Instinct, NBA Jam, and other exciting games against someone across town or across the country. It's almost like putting thousands of the nation's most vicious gamers right in your living room. They knew not what they did. You can just go down to Toys R Us and get that for $20. Think of it as little toy blocks on great big steroids. SimCity 2000. I particularly loved being able to like spawn tornadoes and Martians and everything else to come destroy the city. We got a two-parter here. Dead Meat. It's Killer Instinct for the Game Boy. Look at all those color choices. Even a clear version. And the Super Game Boy accessory for the SNES. Enjoy it wherever you go. Killer Instinct is now on Game Boy. We've got game reviews for XCOM, Revolution X, Final Fight 3, Mortal Kombat 3, and Toy Story. Toy Story not looking so hot there. A lot of 6.5s. Also, Final Fight 3 not looking so good either. PTO 2, Pacific Theater of Operations. Target or be targeted. More reviews, Solar Eclipse, Loaded Gex. Gex scoring pretty high there. Actually, all three of these actually look pretty high score there. I like how they even tell you, like, best features of Gex. Brand new at the time. Best feature was humor. Worst feature? Nothing new. Time to complete? Medium. Also try. Any other mascot game, I guess like Crash Bandicoot or something. Gross, nasty, disgusting, sickening, and slimy. I love it. Cyberdillo. Guess that's for the Panasonic 3DO. So many games I've never heard of. This must have just been one big failure of a system. But they went all out in the marketing, apparently. Reviews for Viewpoint, Captain Quasar. Oh, that was our 3DO title. It actually has decent scores, pretty high there. If you like it, also try Metal Gear, okay? I'm gonna force feed these clowns a few tasty missiles. I guess says Scramble Cobra for the 3DO. Shockwave 2, iWar, and the Virtual Boy Mario Clash. Developed by Panasonic? Now look at that screen, that's what the game looked like, and the best feature was visual clarity? Like maybe compared to other Virtual Boy titles or something? Strange Panasonic was making games for the Virtual Boy while, trying to compete with Nintendo with their own console. 4x4 Anarchy Canyon Shredding Killfest. Get a load of Off-World Interceptor Extreme. The Chaotic Death Capade featuring wicked 4x4s and a bloodthirsty arsenal. Maybe like a little bit of a precursor to Twisted Metal? But that logo kind of reminds me of like ATV Off-Road Fury or something like that. I have to look into Crystal Dynamics and see where did this go. I've definitely heard of that company. Killer Instinct just bombed apparently, but I've never seen Killer Instinct that looked like that. This must be like the Game Boy. Yeah, okay, Game Boy. I've missed that entirely. Game Boy version of the game. And we've got the Game Gear versions over here. Not a lot of love for Sonic either on the Sega Game Gear. Alright, I wasn't ready for this POV. Quarterback Attack. Gaming Gossip, here we go. From The Q. Happy New Year, gamers, and welcome to the new year Q-Man style. The Q has laid some traps in this, the Year of the Rat, to snag the best gaming gossip from inside the gaming biz. Is it interesting how history just repeats itself? Some stores are reporting that sales of the PlayStation are outselling the Saturn at a pace of 8-1, although Sega has gone to some lengths to point out that all new launches enjoy a love fest. Sony plans to introduce the Sony PlayStation 2 in 1997 and the PlayStation 3 in the next century. Strange how that needed to be worded. Check it out next month. Same Q time, same Q page. I guess you gotta go to like 4chan for that now. Wipeout, a dangerous game for the PlayStation and PC CD-ROM. Welcome to the arena. Choose your weapon wisely. I'm not very familiar with these two things. I guess the specialized joystick and the specialized control pad. That's maybe a little too much customization there. I don't know. I'm sure if you're like a fighting game lover, though, those are probably kick-ass. Kingsfield, prepare yourself for an epic adventure never before possible. Beautiful 3D graphics. Something 3D graphics. All zombies in favor of banning Corpse Killer. Raise whatever you got left. Corpse Killer. Not familiar with that one. We got some killer codes here. Virtua Fighter, Mega Man 7, Cyber Sled, Virtua Fighter, Siberia. Danger never looked so good. The graphics we boasted about back in the day. Busted system, get back into the game immediately with Power Swap. Power Swap gives you a permanent replacement until unit now. You'll be back into the game with no wait and little expense. So they'll just take your, looks like the redo of the NES, the Super Nintendo, or your Game Boy, swap you a new version of it, send it back. I mean, I guess you could get away with it back then because you didn't have like onboard memory for that. I didn't realize that this kind of service existed, but that's pretty cool. Destruction Derby, love thy neighbor, wreck his car. Available now. It's the most impressive PlayStation game yet. A carnage-filled crunch fest. Most realistic crashes we've ever seen. I'd love to see footage of this game just to kind of laugh at that. So I guess this dude back here sitting on the Ferrari, I don't know why he's in like a muscle shirt, but he's looking over here. He got the hot chick on the hood of the beat up demolition derby car. Nice ad, I guess. As of now, airline food is no longer the most deadly thing in the sky, because we've got Agile Warrior F111X for the PlayStation. Okay, looks like Salisbury steak has finally met its match. A game so intense, you'll discover testosterone in places you never even knew you had it. Feed the machine, because after all, you are what you eat. Alright, here's the real meat. Nintendo's Lincoln speaks out on the Ultra 64. The Nintendo 64 is unveiled in Japan and more questions are raised than answered. So it was scheduled to be launched in America in late April 1996. This was January, like 4 months before that this issue came out. And they were still going by the Ultra 64 branding. So why wasn't the Ultra a name used in Japan? I think there were some trademark issues. Interesting, they're talking about a magnetical optical drive, and this person said it'll be out by the end of 1996. You'll see the product for the next Shoshinkai show. Now, I think there was some kind of like disc expansion that goes under the N64, but I don't know if it was a magnetic optical drive, though. Who do you consider to be your competitor? One of the things we're not going to do is trash our competitors. Do we have more concern over one than the other? No, not really. You tend to see in this business that competitors go up and down. It has more to do with the quality of games than anything else. The Ultra 64 debuts in Japan, Nintendo unveils a new 64-bit system, and gaming will never be the same. And you see the memory card going into the controller there, but I don't think anybody knew that the Rumble Pack was around the corner. Super Mario 64 takes the Nintendo 64 by storm. That probably blew people's minds back then, but in the long run, I think that as a 3D platformer, the game's a little overrated. It was early, though. Give credit where credit is due. It might have had a lot to do with better platformers like DK64 and Banjo-Kazooie. Things that came to this system a little bit later. Kirby Ball 64. I don't know if I've heard of that one. Pilot Wing 64, GoldenEye 007. Now that is a game changer right there. Star Fox 64, another. Legend of Zelda 64. Okay, what are we talking about here? Is this a canceled game? I mean, in any case, Legend of Zelda 64 looks impressive. There are a few cool visual effects like sparks that will fly when Link hits an enemy with a sword. The storyline is still up in the air as Nintendo's not talking. However, whatever they have up their sleeves, you can bet that it'll generate the same excitement as the original game. I'm not pulling up anything in a quick Google search, but this must have been what turned into Ocarina of Time. That came out in 1998. So it looked like it was pretty early on in the development. Thank God they did a lot of work on the graphics. I don't remember, like, is that spark effect still in the game? Blast Dozer, Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, don't believe I played that. Wave Race 64, Body Harvest, Buggy Boogie, don't know what that is. Creator. Creator utilizes the Ultra 64's rotation and zoom capabilities. Super Mario Kart R. There are a lot of weird Nintendo games that have like R at the end, and I'm not sure why. I'll have to look into that at some point. But, you know, I'm assuming this is what turns into Mario Kart 64. To people who have more experience in the game, maybe these early screenshots will mean a little bit more to them. International conflicts should be settled with legs, not arms. FIFA Soccer 1996. Now we're talking. Cheating comes to 32-bit systems with the Game Shark video game enhancer. Interesting that referred to these as Game Genie type devices. Still not enough, our EGM editor saw a special hacker's kit, which may not be available in the US. Contains a board that plugs into your PC and connects to your Saturn. With this super powerful tool, you can hack away at the game program code and create your own codes. Man, it's so interesting that people are trying to reverse engineer this stuff from the start. Wall-to-wall excitement. We've got PlayStation games, SNES games, Sega Saturn games. What is this? I guess a Time Warner Interactive publisher ad here. Primal Rage, I loved that game on Super Nintendo. Virtua Racing, Kawasaki Superbike Challenge, Last Gladiators, and Wayne Gretzky. Chips and Bits Inc. I guess this was a way you could buy, you know, your whole system or buy anything from their list of games for the system that they carried. Just mail order. Quarterback attack. Get up, get up, fool, enter to win. Damn, the graphic design here. Grand prize was 2 tickets to any regular season football game of your choice, college or pro, 1996 season. We got the Sega 32X Spider-Man The Web of Fire. Save Manhattan while wearing red and blue tights. The clarity of the visuals in Spider-Man Web of Fire properly uses the added muscle of the 32X. Amazing clarity. And for the Saturn, we've got Virtua Cop. I kind of like those arcadey shooters like that. I think I played a much later version that was like a Western themed one for Genesis, and it looked a little bit better than this, thankfully. And Creature Shock, I've heard of this. I have no idea what it is though. In space, no one can hear you die. Fully rendered cinemas tell the tale. Cinemas like these are common, but these are quite impressive. And that is the halfway point through this. How many pages? We're on 105 of 210. I definitely can't go and do the other half and fit it into the same video, so if you want me to do a part 2 to this, let me know in the comments. We'll finish off this January 1996 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly. There's so much knowledge just packed into here. I learn more every single time I look at something like this. If you're a big fan of like gaming history, facts, retro gaming, check out my Game Facts series where I go into all of that. Some of the stuff we talked about today, and you know, I'm getting ideas right now for more of those videos. But everything you do, as always, is greatly appreciated. I appreciate all of the follows, the likes, subscribes, whatever the hell it is you do. It's all adding up to something, and we're on a roll. I appreciate it. I like this upward trajectory right now. Hopefully we can keep that going, but thanks.